Welcome back. Presidential elections have been postponed to the end of the month in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Polls were meant to be held this weekend, but a fire at the Electoral Commission headquarters destroyed voting machines and booths. Some opposition leaders suggest this could be a plot to sabotage the vote, which would have seen an end to President Joseph Kabila's 17-year rule. We're now joined by international political expert Dr. Charles Sinkala for some perspective on the week's events. Afternoon to you, Doctor. So, was the postponement announced on Thursday inevitable?
Thank you very much and good afternoon to your viewers. Tambikile, it was inevitable. I mean, Democratic Republic of Congo has gone through the transition of violent elections and power transition. You will remember very well that they are behind by 2 years and some months in holding these general elections. And earlier in the week, or last week, we had confusion that the fire broke out on one of the warehouses, which was housing the machinery of what they call them the fingerprint machines to use into the electoral processes. But also the Electoral Commission there insisted that that won't deter tomorrow's elections. But we were surprised on Thursday, the announcement that they are unable to host the elections.
And in the context, Dr. Sinkala, of the delays in the election prior to this, it was supposed to have been a vote that took place 2 years ago. There were issues again with the Electoral Commission and its ability to be able to conduct a free, fair and peaceful election in the DRC. Here we are again, now voting machines destroyed. How much of the crisis around these elections now was deliberately created, do you think?
You see, the crisis has been a long-going thing in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and this has just fueled it increasingly. The incapacitation of the Electoral Commission of the Democratic Republic of Congo has been as a result of funding, which the President himself accepted 2 years ago, prior to the announcement of the election, that they did not have funds to hold the elections. But one gets so disappointed to realize that, the SADC, the regional office, even offered them to assist them in terms of funding the electoral processes so that there can be a smooth power transmission and people they can afford the electoral processes which are dignified and a right to the citizens of the Democratic of Congo. But you see, these conflicts are not coming from within the Democratic Republic of Congo. These conflicts are coming from somewhere else.
Where is somewhere?
It could be anywhere else. You must remember that conflicts, there are three people or three parties involved. There's one party which is a victim, there's one party which is trying to protect the influence of the third party. And as long as you do not realize who is the third party, this happens also in marriages, for instance. When there's a third party and you do not identify that third party, it's very difficult for you to establish and make a lasting solution.
But if you're saying
President Kabila, or the caretaker President Kabila, has been a victim like any other president who's been there. He does not know, he does not have control of what is happening in his country. He claims to try to establish the Republic of Congo in line with the values of his independence, but he's been failing.
I'm interested in the concept of Joseph Kabila as a victim, because when you speak to a lot of Congolese people, at least those who live in South Africa, very few of them have flattering things to say about Joseph Kabila. In fact, a lot of them blame him for them leaving their homes to come seek better fortunes here. He's been blamed for the death of people. He's been blamed for the detention of dissenting political voices in the DRC. Speak to me about this idea of Kabila as a victim.
It's a third law of conflict, which establishes a third party into conflicts. It's not only in the Democratic Republic of Congo. There's many other Central African Republic. In Nigeria, we've got the same similar problem. How do you understand the funding of the Boko Harams who are fighting the government, who are killing the people, making people to fight each other? It does not make sense. How do they get the funding? So there is third parties which funds both sides of the war, and this is how conflict and civil wars erupt collapse in a country. Yes, they have flagged that President Kabila is the one who has brought the situation to its knees, or Democratic Republic of Congo to its knees. The government is paralyzed. They don't have money into the coffers because he's a central part whom people they believe was supposed to serve the people. Even him in his swearing of the taking office there, he insisted that he is going to put back Democratic Republic of Congo on the right course. But these forces, which they have failed to identify, it's quite unfortunate that if you talk about the United Nations, whom has been in peacekeeping mission in Democratic Republic of Congo for many years, they've got a budget of about 1.1 billion every year. Only this year, 2018 and 2019 budget has been reduced by $27 million. They are still there. They spend money to do the peacekeeping mission, but there's no peace in Democratic Republic of Congo. These all elections, delaying of the elections and having a caretaker president has just fueled. There's about close to... if I remember correctly, the statistics which they took, it's about almost 5.4 million people have died since 1998. And people are still continuing dying, and they are fighting each other. So if you look at yourselves, why are we fighting ourselves? These are the aspects of audit. The international community has to move into these war-torn zones where these people are fighting each other. These people are supposed to work together in the development of Democratic Republic of Congo, the most richest, the resourced country. It's almost the third biggest continent in the world, and a combined of the European Union is the European, West European is almost the size of it. So these are the issues where we shift blame, and the political propaganda is created amongst ourselves that this is the one who's causing. So the blame game shifts from the real problem, the actual problem, to the person who hasn't got a problem.
But we cannot divorce Joseph Kabila surely from the problems of the DRC just by the length of his term alone. In a democratic state, a president who's been in power since, for 17 years, he took over from his father, Laurent Kabila. That in itself doesn't inspire much confidence in viewing him as a democratic leader. But again, back to your point about the international community, many African activists will say, in fact, we've long known that the likes of the United Nations aren't going to be the vehicles with which the African is saved. So when do we stop then looking to them for assistance? Because when you look at Western powers and their involvement in conflicts, be it in Africa or in the Arab world, it is often very much tied to economic interests. Is there oil? Are there mineral riches?
These are the problems which African leaders they fail to understand, that where they run to seek help is where actually the problem starts from. It's time that Africans, we realize our problems are within ourselves. How do we safeguard ourselves in running our affairs? By realizing what minerals we have in our country.
But you can't divorce Kabila from the problems.
Kabila cannot be 100% be taken off the problems, but he is the only human as well as a president. He's got the incapacitation of running the government. It's not easy to run an African government, especially when you've got influence from outside. There are threats which they talk about, which has never been into the public domain, of threats to these presidents that if you do not do this, this will happen. If you do not do this, if you do not happen, they're just puppets who have been put in the office. They do not necessarily neglect the people. I mean, I hated R.J. Mugabe, former president of Zimbabwe, to my tooth. But the last term, last year, 2017, leading to his outest, I had to spend time with him. I listened to him, my tears almost cried that this man has been trying to protect the people of Zimbabwe, but actually outside is the person, the people they have thought is the cause of the troubles in his country. So Africans, I think what's supposed to happen is by realizing our strategic problems in Africa and working together, working with the regional first communities. First, we have to start from our countries individually by realizing our stance that what are we here for, what are we working towards to, without realizing that our neighbor, part of our budget has to be funded by our neighbor or anything. From there, then we go regional, then we protect ourselves from the international community.
We have to wrap, Dr. Sinkala, but I'm interested in what you're saying. You talk about Mugabe, you talk about Kabila, and I'm wondering if in your rationalization of the situation, you're not perhaps glorifying people who aren't worthy of the glory of saying this was a person who's tried to save a nation, because that in itself would be problematic, that the saving of any particular country couldn't be reduced to a single individual, and at what cost?
This is the biggest problem, Tavege, because the cost of saving the country is actually too much, and at the moment people, they don't take that saving of the country to their life, that like the other leaders, the world leaders who, you know, worked for their countries and they lost their lives. Talk about Nelson Mandela, who lost all his things by being incarcerated for all those years in prison. You know, it's a bit of a shifted goalpost at the moment that, you know, I'm not supporting him of what has been done. I've always condemned him. I also condemned in 2015 when R.J. Mugabe nominated him to sit on the Security Council of the United Nations. I personally said he cannot sit on the international platform on security while the security of the Democratic Republic of Congo hasn't been on a good stance. So
okay, very quickly
as we wrap up and saying this, though we condemn the other forces, you know, conflict comes from everywhere. That's why I'm insisting that there's a third party involved between the two people who wants to stabilize their nation.
You've not named the third party, and we're running out of time, but again, name then the, three things where you could say Joseph Kabila has served the people of the DRC, given that he's a president who's overseen an administration where millions have left their homes. Millions complain of the suppression of dissenting political voices. The economy is in crisis. You've got dodgy foreign companies taking advantage of perhaps the lawlessness around mining rights in the DRC. So how then has he served the people of the Congo?
You know, he's tried to save the people of Congo in many ways. Very few of them is the adoption of the new constitution, you know, where he said now we have to start a free note from where he started, taking over from his late father. You know, he's tried to put things in place, but I'm saying, like I'm explaining again, the people who are interested, who've got interest in the Democratic Republic of Congo, has fueled the violence into Democratic Republic of Congo. I'm appealing to the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo to realize themselves that they've got full potential. They have to unlock their potential and take possession of their country and work together as a country.
Dr. Charles Sinkala, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
That was Dr. Charles Sinkala. He is an expert in international politics.